Shoot.
Eve responded. I took that as a sign to start asking her what I had on my mind, and I definitely had a lot of questions on my mind. But I only asked her the most important ones. Where am I? I asked. She took a second to respond.
You're in
A pause.
a safe place.
I didn't like that answer, so I asked her again. This time with a much more demanding voice, I repeated my question. I asked you where I am. I looked at her straight in her ocean blue eyes. She looked confused as to why the answer she gave me earlier wasn't enough for me.
Look, it's better you don't know. It's just a precaution.
Precaution? Precaution for what? I asked.
Next question.
She replied, seeming very annoyed. Okay. I took a little bit more time in my next question. It was very hard to decide what to ask her. It's not like I couldn't think of anything. More like I couldn't choose what to ask. You said we were being tracked. She nodded. Who exactly are we being tracked by? She sighed deeply before speaking.
Ever heard of the Federal Bureau of Space-Time Preservation?
I shook my head. It sounded like something straight out of a cliché science fiction movie.
Well, you're not supposed to. It's the guys who are tracking us. One of the most secret organizations on the planet. You know, besides the Illuminati and FBEA.
Hearing that left me in a daze. Was it really true that there is a secret organization that only a handful of people know about? One that preserves the entirety of freaking space-time itself? Could something so big truly be held in such a secret that we all look away from it? Everything started to make sense. All those YouTube videos I would watch at 3 a.m. Those stupid conspiracy videos about how there are time travelers that can change history all the time. The Mandela effect. And how sometimes they leave things there. All the times that I just clicked off of them, laughing at how stupid some people could be. Could I really have been the stupid one? I didn't say anything for a while, and I think Eve was getting impatient. I at least wanted to squeeze one more question into this. Well, if what you're saying is true, and that there really is an organization of people who can change time, then why haven't they just wiped us out of existence? What is even the point? We stood in an awkward silence for a while, as Eve pondered my question. I could tell that she didn't have a straightforward answer. She thought for a bit before replying.
Time is fragile. If you change one thing, then you change countless other factors. They already attempted on your life once and failed. So wiping you out from existence is no longer a choice unless they want to cause a rip in the fabric of space-time.
I took a second to think about that. What Eve said created more questions than answers. So what will they do to me now? I asked. If they catch me, I added.
My guess?
She paused.
My guess? They'll send you to the in-between.
The in-between? What the hell is that? I questioned. For some reason, that name made my hair stand on edge.
It's a region, outside of space and time. No one exactly knows what it is, but it's just
She sounded scared.
It's a blank slate, a void of black nothingness. Time works strangely there. A second feels like 1,000 years, an hour an eternity.
I sat in silence, waiting for her to continue.
It'll drive you insane. Just the mere thought of it can push a human to the brink of insanity. It's something beyond our understanding.
She sounded as if she was going to cry. I could see the tears starting to form under her eyes.
It's better to just not think about it. All you need to know is that you don't want to go there.
She sniffed, holding back the tears. I stood in silence. She was right. Just the mere thought of such a thing could drive a human insane. How could something like that exist? Eve took my silence as a stop to the questions. She wiped away the tears and cleared her throat before speaking.
Well, I think it's time you meet the rest of us.
I was confused. Us? I asked. She nodded.
Yes. You think just us two can pull something like this off?
She remarked with a hint of sarcasm.
Oh, I should help you out of that.
she said, looking over at the shackle. Eve knelt down and unlocked the shackle from my knee. I let out a sigh of relief. She stood, walking towards the door, and turned around, signaling me to follow. I followed her. She opened the door for me. The building was huge. It was like a high school auditorium. I was looking around and taking everything in when I was interrupted by a shout from afar. "Is that him?" said the voice. It sounded masculine, and I could tell it was a man.
Yes, that's him, Gallius,
replied Eve, who was behind me, locking the door to the room from which I had come from. "He don't look like much to me," said another voice. This one also sounded very masculine, and with an accent that sounded strangely familiar.
Give him a break, Arthur. He's going to be the one that saves us. You are going to be the one who saves us, right?
A third voice, this one feminine. At the source of the voices was a large, brawny-looking man. Another man, tall and rugged. And a woman, frail and beautiful. Eve walked past me, turned around to face me, took a deep sigh, and spoke.
These are the people that are going to be helping us.
She pointed at the man in the middle. He looked as if he was in his mid-30s. Brown hair, 6'5", a large muscular build, and someone you wouldn't want to mess with.
That's Gallius,
she said. Gallius replied with a grunt. His eyes locked into mine, and I suddenly started to feel really sweaty. She took a step to the right and pointed at another man, who looked in his late 30s, 6 feet, skinny, but looked like one of those survivalists on documentaries. He had scars on his face and a long, rugged beard, accompanied by long, brown hair that came down to his shoulders. He wore a hat with a few rips and tears in it, but it looked like an antique.
That's Arthur.
He tipped his hat in response. She took a step to the right and pointed at a woman who looked in her mid-20s. She had long, blonde, braided hair. She wore a white skirt and a red shirt, with boots up to her knees. She had big red lips and clear skin.
And this is Amanda.
She curtsied.
How do you do? Oh, and I should mention, they are from different time periods.
Eve added. My mouth dropped wide open, and Eve took that as a sign to explain.
See, time travel is complicated. You can't account for every factor. There's millions upon millions. Sometimes, people or things are displaced throughout different periods of time, like us.
She took a second before continuing.
Depending on your role in life, you can have a large impact on the timeline, or a small impact, one that's barely noticeable. We're the latter. People like us are sent to the in-between, since we're not that important to the integrity of the timeline,
she added. With that in mind, I asked, so when are you guys from?
Gallius is from around the time when the Roman Empire was in power.
Eve replied.
Arthur is from the 1860s, what you call the Wild West era.
She continued.
And Amanda is from the 1930s, sometime during World War II.
She added. Looking back at my life before this, it may not have been the best or the most eventful. Some would say I lived a boring, pathetic life. But I'd do anything to go back to that life. And when are you from, Eve? I questioned.
I'm from 1607, around the same time as the colonization of America.
She answered. I didn't think my chances were too great. I had to go up against the secret organization formed to protect the space-time continuum, with the help of a Roman, a cowboy, a colonial, and a random woman from the 30s. I think you can guess why I didn't have much confidence in this working out. Nevertheless, it was either fight or let them take me and throw me into a place where I'd have to spend God knows how long, floating in nothingness. I really didn't have a choice. Well, if we want to pull this off, we need a plan. I was cut off by Eve.
We already have that settled. Remember that laptop you stole?
She snapped her fingers and was handed the laptop by Gallius, who had been looking at me like an angry gorilla for the whole duration of the conversation. Eve set the laptop down on the table, conveniently located right in the middle of us.
This contains information about where their HQ is. Entry points, weak spots, you name it. This thing has everything.
Eve has a hint of excitement in her voice, which is unnerving because we are about to embark on a suicide mission. Okay, so where is their base? I asked, expecting it to be somewhere in the Himalayan mountains or under the Pacific Ocean. Maybe on the moon?
Texas.